You sent me a message already this morning.
This morning?
Yes, girl. Like, you gonna come and pick up my younger nephew is in town. He's here for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And Destin is such a little joy, but he does require he requires activity. He's only, what is he, 9 or 10?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, so he's not home alone kind of kid. So, and why should he be? I mean, he comes here from Texas and he got all this family here. So he calls or he texted me earlier and asked me, are you getting Destin this morning? And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm not available until 8:30. And he was like, okay, cool. I guess he says as long as I get him, because I didn't get him yesterday.
Okay.
And he usually hangs out with my niece and nephew, but they get back today.
Okay. They've been away.
They've been in Chicago for.
Oh, they got to go home a little bit, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna go get him, and then I'm gonna go and try to replace some of these doggone plants that these groundhogs have eaten. I bought some that chicken wire to go around my little garden to see if I can keep them critters out.
So we around everything.
Girl.
In little cages between them and the deer.
I tell you, it just and it makes money for the store because everybody is trying to figure out how to keep them things out. So I might just buy some of that critter spray and put some of that down, and because I'm not finding the motion sensing stuff that I want. I got one thing that has a motion sensor on it, and they haven't eaten that flower since. So it's apparent that the motion stuff works, but
it's like done by the sun.
girl, I have one of those, those stupid fish that sits on the plaque. And when you have motion, it goes, take me to the water or something like that. Or, I want to know, won't you tell me, how does it feel? Take me to the river kind of. But it's one of those stupid fish that motion activates. And it moves. I found it in a thrift store. And so
I've seen those before, the bass plaques or something like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I mounted that in the front yard to keep them from eating my doggone plants. Yes, I did.
Wow, that's cool though. And it worked?
Yes, it works. Yes, it works. I got to just keep batteries in there. But yes, it works. Because anytime just something moves, even me, it scares me too. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I need to have one in the garden.
Right. I'm like, oh, I wonder if we could try that. Put it on somehow, jimmy it to the wire, to the chicken wire.
Yeah, but
the deer
I don't know if they're that smart that they'll say, oh, that thing is on this side of the garden, let's go on the other side.
Yeah. That is the coolest idea. Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, Desmond. And you had a long night at work. Well, I'm so glad that you made it.
Good morning.
Yeah. So, and I guess it helps when we tell you that we're going to be talking about sexual energy today. Sexual here. And you know what? It's really interesting like revisiting these ideas on the other side of my menopausal experience. I don't know that I'm all the way through it, but it's really, really interesting. Just kind of revisiting and then thinking about this. About thinking about this sexual energy and what it means to be really I was asking myself the question, Stephanie, does anybody ever get enough sex? I mean, do we ever think we get enough?
No.
Okay.
Well, in my humble opinion. Just say that.
Yes, that's where I get, that's where I was like having a problem. Like she's sitting up there saying that, not having a good sexual life, I guess, that it leads to these problems. And I'm thinking, like, is that like, I mean, how do you quantify that?
Quantify what part? What do you mean?
That whether or not you're having or have had a good sexual life. I mean, it just,
Well, I mean, I think people have an idea of what they think they want. I think that, I believe that intimacy starts in the mind and the heart. So if those aren't in alignment, um, a lot of times you may not have a good sexual experience, but people are different. I mean, I know people who have sex for the sake of having sex. And
well,
so,
but you're also, I'm going to say it like this, you're also a girl. So
um,
while you say that sex starts in the mind and in the heart, somebody else might say, no, it starts in the groin.
yeah.
Just
Well, I
depending.
mean, let me quantify because, and I know that this meaning, it means something different to everyone. Intimacy, the level of intimacy that brings, what I don't know if Marvin Gaye understood what he was saying, but the intimacy that brings sexual healing, the
Mhm.
intimacy that brings about healing, starts in the heart and the mind.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree. However, and as we get into this, I think that's where we're going to go. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it in that way, in that regard. So, the challenge of managing sexual energy. So we're still in working on the second chakra, in the Anatomy of the Spirit, which is the book that we are meandering through by Carolyn Miss. And it would help if I use the right mouse. And so let's talk about this. Okay, so managing sex. She says sexuality and all our attitudes toward it are patterned in the second chakra, which is what we just talked about. Sexuality is raw power. Raw power. So and I love the way she uses power and energy and words like that, whether we're talking about spirituality, power, energy, all of that stuff. She uses them interchangeably, but on purpose. So while we talk about energy may seem like it is something that is just present at hand, right? It is, it surrounds us, but it is not. Energy is different from force or power.
Right.
And so power is the ability to do something with it. It's not just out here lingering. It is a force, right?
Now,
And
could you
so
describe that as a type of kind of like an adjective to energy? Like, could you give it like is it I don't know. Let me think about that.
oh,
I'm in agreement with you. I'm just saying that how I'm trying to connect the energy and the power together. So
Yeah, I don't think that while I don't think that they are separate,
mm-hmm.
um, I think that is just different. So, like, say for instance, I have a glass of water here.
Yes.
It's water, but it's very different than the the water that you might find in the ocean, in that the water that is in my glass is just dormant. It's just there, right? It is dormant, or it appears to be dormant, just waiting for me to drink it. It's just hanging out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, energy just hangs out. Energy just simply is.
Is. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But when there is a movement to it, when it has the power to do something, I mean, so water, I'm a water sign, and I always think that it's really interesting that there are several signs that are that have water analogies to it. Some water is stagnant, sitting water. And if it's stagnant water, it can almost become um, like swamp water. It can have a negative charge to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there is some water that's fresh water, or that's moving water, that
Flowing.
water
Mm-hmm.
that has, flow to it. And so energy, to me, it can either just kind of be hanging out, or it can erode a rock. It could change a shoreline. That force and that power, if you've ever been hit with some water has power to it. And so when she says sexuality is raw power, I get the notion that it's raw power, and that it has the ability to not just move things, but it is the power to create life,
Mm-hmm. Right.
to go from a no thing to a manifest reality, you know,
Mm-hmm.
bang. I'm just kidding. I mean, not kidding, but you get the bang,
Yeah. It's a play on words. You got it.
whatever. So good morning. All right, so sexuality is raw power. And the funny thing about it is that sometimes we don't even recognize that we have it, right? Especially as this come hither, like, I could draw things, I can do things with this raw power. So the power to form strong bonds and an intimate union with another person with whom you can produce and sustain life, right? It has the power. Sometimes it has like a texture to it. Sometimes it has like you can feel it when it's present. Ooh, and when somebody and you have good chemistry, that doggone is amazing. So having a mate or forming a family, she says, with or without children,
Mm-hmm.
is important, right? A union for adults, it really stabilizes your life. I
It
will
does.
put it like that, right? It becomes a solidity. That connectedness forms a solid base that helps you to maneuver.
Co-create.
Yes, it helps you to procreate, but it also
So
becomes the
my language was co-create, because
co-create.
even if
Okay.
there is no children involved, there is a collaboration
Yes.
that
Yes.
takes place that is like indescribable.
When it's right? Because it can also be described as a volcano when it's not,
Yeah.
right? That ability to erupt when it's not. That together is yeah, it can have some amazing movement in it. So it represents stability, this intimacy in a relationship. It represents stability. Hey, good morning, Gretchen. So finding a life partner also includes forming a union with the person of the same sex, with people or a person of the same sex. And so while we may be talking about, on one level, we may be talking about male-female relationships, even the relationships, and I kind of read this over again a couple of times, because I was saying, well, is she just saying with the same sex based on homosexual relationships? Because she does say that, we've kind of society is moving in a way that we are able to express ourselves with all the myriad of ways, like if you're into same sex or not. But I also think that friendships, that ability to form intimate friendships, like with same sex, like with your girlfriends or whoever, is also another important component in our development. Um, and I think that that's why stuff like this, what we're doing here, is
Yes.
so important, because what it does is it removes this isolation of thinking this is just my issue, into what, Sandra and Stephanie are, that happened to them, you know, even if um even if you haven't been able to relate, hopefully we have touched on something
Something. Yes.
that resonates with you, and you could say, oh yeah, oh, I get that, right? And it triggers something else for you when it comes up. So while she says that, she goes through that thing about talking about homosexuality and how it has been, in these days, it's kind of had this, this ability to come into to blossom, so that it is not so taboo as it used to be. It is, I think that same-sex relationships are just as important for the stability and for yeah, just being able to know who we are, to ground ourselves in this thing. So whether it is men's groups or women's groups or friendships, it don't even have to be a group. I think that those things are important for our development. So the second chakra contains desires as well as the ability to create life. Now, pregnancy and birth unite the dualistic forces, so that male and female force, it brings them together. And it is an amazing thing, because now two people, what was two people, come together in order to make something happen. And even that, the consideration of how we are to do this, what this involves, is I think is something that helps us to further clarify who we are and what's important. So it is yeah, I think that all of that is like a self-revelation. Okay. So besides creating life, sex is an avenue of self-expression. That got a smile. It's making a statement about our comfort in relating physically to the world around us. Now, I want to pause right here, because I think that so going through that, there was some things so far that I I wanted to point out, and well, let me read on for just a second. It's making a statement about the comfort in relating physically to the world around us.
Hmm?
Yeah, that's what it says, that sex is an avenue of self-expression and a means of making a statement about our comfort in relating physically to the world around us. Now, period. Now, having said that, what I have noticed is that there are so many people who have different levels of comfort with themselves in the first place. And sex does not always solve that issue when you go into it thinking that you need to be somebody else in order to have that relationship.
Mhm.
And so what happens a lot of times is if you have not done, I'm just going out here. I know Carolyn didn't say this, but if you have not done the work on yourself, sometimes you are still putting on a show or a masquerade for the
Well, yeah, because sexual intimacy is almost like a child at its mother's breast. So if it's that level of intimacy, there's a nurturing expectation, there's a giving and receiving experience that happens in that. And so if our attachment wounds have not been addressed, then we begin to perform in an intimate way as we do in the same way we interact with our parents or whoever was our caretakers. And so that becomes a pattern that we do even in our sexual experiences. I hate even that's how we connect. We haven't dealt with our attachment stuff, our anxieties, the ability to withdraw. And one of the stories that she shares in here is an amazing depiction of what happens when someone hasn't done their work on how they attach, the attachment wounds that may be in existence when we first start to connect with people. So if you have a need or a desperate need to be attached to your mother or your father, and then you get with a sexual partner, then you become that child that's crying all the time. So you think, well, we'll just have sex, 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 and that'll soothe that experience. But you have to go and get that work done, and that's when the performance starts. And so my bottom line is saying that you don't have to even do what you want, but it is important to get that work done and make sure that the work is done so that you can do what the other level of sexual connections which is co-creating on this planet and being a divine force for change on the planet. Um so yeah.
so Erica had typed a little bit ago that she's not following and was saying explain again, but I'm wondering if as you talked further through that, if she if it became more clear. And so I'm saying is that I see people who go into sexual relationships and don't show up because they are still in performance mode. And a lot of times you see this, especially with women. We go into sex and we are there as pleasers sometimes, right? We think that our job is not to fully participate, but rather be a receptacle for you to get off and not necessarily for us.
Mm.
And so sometimes people don't show up in intimate ways. I mean, some people are so busy trying to be what they think you want or what they think a man wants, that they never really get to the place where we're saying, you know what, I got needs here too. I got a desire here too. I want to fully participate, not just as you know somebody who is trying to perform for you, but rather somebody who actually has needs and desires too.
Mhm.
And I like it this way.
Mhm.
I don't want you trying to knock the bottom out of nothing. That ain't fun to me. So a lot of people never get to the point where they say, that ain't fun. That ain't what I like. Are you even paying attention to me here? Right? Are you seeing if I'm engaged here? And so if you are not, and that's why I like her using the word intimacy, because a lot of times we have sex without having intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Erica says men show up performative as well.
90% of the time. 90% of the time, because most men have not done their work. Women are more likely to have done their work. We get together with girlfriends, we check ourselves, we grow, we mold, we shape, just like we mold and shape ourselves for connection. We do the same thing in our girlfriend intimacies. And so I'm not saying that all men don't grow, but statistics show that society has been set up that when it comes to sex and intimacy, they are not asked to show up. And when they are asked to show up, you get pushback like you too emotional. Nobody doing all of that stuff. So, I think Erica is correct, and studies have shown it to be so. So they too are performers a lot of times more so than we are in the sexual conquest, because that's what it is for a lot of people. And so even the romance sometimes can be, no, studies have shown that the romance is performance. It's not animalistic until, until the barriers are broke down, and then the natural flow of the animalistic properties that is, or the co-creative property that comes with intimacy begins to do its dance. But the performance piece, men have it worse than we do.
Okay. Okay, so good to know. So intimacy. Let's talk about intimacy for a minute. So I used to always break down the word into me see, right? That was kind of how I looked at intimacy. Like, I'm going to be vulnerable. I am going to show up in and let myself be seen, felt, heard. This would be my safe space to be who I am. Yes. And so it becomes this question of, because so many of us, and men and women, are taught that it's not okay to be your true self, your real self. And so if that's the case, is intimacy to go? Now, let me read this first. Tony is chiming in. She says, good morning. Good morning. Women have that. Yeah, good morning. Women have that because of our mothers, grandmothers, etc. There is a book, Coffee, Tea, or Me, which talks about how women are vessels. Back in our grandparents' days, the woman had no sexual say.
Well, is she African American? That's the truth. That's right. That's what we were. We were baby makers to to produce other animals to work on the farm.
Yeah, we made babies. And when I use the word receptacles, I fully know that, yes, we have been what one person used to term cum dumps. So just isn't that horrible? And just even the verbiage around that has been yes. And so we hear and yes, and have internalized so much degradation around our own sexuality that it does inhibit our ability to show up and say, I'm
Yeah.
here and I have needs too.
And that's where the quantum healing has to begin in that, because this is a part of a our DNA has been trashed in this regard. And then you have the, nothing against religion or the Bible, but how people interpret it, then become the shaming and the blaming now. And understand something, when you know the spirit knows its truth, right? But then
Mhm.
I am put on a plantation or on a boat, and I'm living in a different reality. And then you are surrounded by, I dare you to think that you are something other than what I tell you. That's
Mhm.
like the ultimate cognitive dissonance. And so then you just capitulate. And then you have the church and everybody else reaffirming the not enoughness.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And it's just, it's so, it's more divisive than we own. Because then if you own it, then you can start nurturing yourself and loving yourself and getting more clear about what this is and what it's for. You get to rewrite the narrative, actually,
Right. Right.
about your sexuality or your intimacy and how you want to do it. But that feeling of being foreign and performance is because that's in it. That's how the script was written.
Yes. Yes. Um, and somebody else wrote that script. And for all of us, it is, I think first off, recognizing the messaging that we have received. So Tony said, yes, she is African American, and she read the book when she was 14, and
Wow.
she
I wish I
always
had that book
remembers
at
it.
14.
You said what?
I wish I had that book at 14.
Well, I think that there was a movie that was based on that book that I saw, Coffee, Tea, or Me. It was about a airline stewardess or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So, so, but it's really interesting, because if the messaging that we have received has taken us, so first off, the messaging that we receive is that um that sex is something we do for somebody else and not for self, right?
Right.
and and because we have that notion that it is something we do for that other, a lot of times people never get to the point when we talk about intimacy. To me, see, some of us never get to the point where we see within our own selves. So there is a relationship that we have to have with self
Mhm.
in order to know that we deserve something better than, or something more than just being somebody else's receptacle,
Exactly.
right? And so when we talk about how this sexuality connects us to our body, yeah, but just because we have a partner there doesn't always imply that, because we could be having, Tony again says in here, I remember in The Color Purple, Mr. gets on top of me and does his business, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes that is, what we see over and over again still played out, that you know we
And
we are not getting pleasuring. We're not seeing it as this. We're seeing it as a function of what we do, as opposed
exactly.
to it being something that gives us life, right? Not just that makes life, but that gives us life. And so
Right. And so
um
it's a mental gymnastics that has to take place if there's going to be a paradigm shift about the sexual experience that we have as people, women of color. We have to do the mental gymnastics of that. The work has to be done. And so that's what I mean when I say we got to go back and do our work, the attachment work, the work that comes from far beyond us. I didn't break it, but I now got to fix it. And it's that
Right.
changing that mindset of who I am, and like the awareness. One of the things I talked about when we did that crowning thing at my house is like the awareness that I am a queen. Like at 50 something is when I got a revelation that I'm a queen. And so in that, there's a responsibility for me. And that's when I started this journey these last 2 years of switching my paradigm about what am I doing with this, with my body, with my head, with my purpose,
Mm.
because we have been programmed, and it's constantly encouraged over and over and over again, of our quote unquote nothingness, and a couple of flashes are I am enough, every now and again I am enough. But what's being perpetuated is that you are a receptacle, you are to be used, you are to be seen and not heard, you are to serve. And it doesn't just stop because we decide, oh, I'm going to do something different. That second chakra space is so powerful. To me, is why it's not talked about or discussed.
Mm.
But we have to change our beliefs about it, because it is powerful and it will change the world.
So, yeah. Yes, it is a transformation. But now here's what I know is that a lot of times, there's a lot of people who can't get to the I am a queen stage, because I think sometimes even the language puts it out there, like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
it's
Oh
not
yeah.
that you're a queen because somebody else acknowledges your majesticness, your
Right.
majesty,
No.
right?
No.
You work on you to know that who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter what your shape is, no matter what, all the judgments that you piled upon yourself, you are perfect as you are. And a lot of times the feelings that we have about ourselves are feelings that we've internalized that didn't even come from us. It's
Yeah.
almost like, I'm gonna swallow that. You
Yeah.
tell me, you tell me I'm ugly, I'm gonna swallow that. You tell me I got a big mouth, big nose, big lips, this big booty, all of this stuff, I'm gonna internalize that. We are so busy swallowing so much stuff that we've barricaded ourselves inside of bodies that we can't even touch or feel. We are emotionally dead too.
Mhm.
And so it becomes this thing of, just like at the end of the Wiz, when they started to unzip those body suits and come out of those fat suits of that society has put on them, and saying, can't you see a brand new day? I love that analogy that they
Yes.
created there, because it was so powerful for me.
It's so true. Mm-hmm.
When you start shedding all the shit that society piles on you, it is as if you are reborn into something wonderful and something new. Your body is wonderful. It smells, it feels, it's humps, it's bumps, it's cellulite, all of that stuff. We have got to fall in love with it, because it is like sitting there saying to you, like, girlfriend, I'm here. Can you hear
All
me?
the time.
Yes. I'm here. And what we do is that we keep pushing it down and telling it to go back to sleep. Shut up.
Mhm.
We do that to ourselves, and then wonder why we are not, you know, feeling or having this, the experience that we're meant to have. It's because we've been pushing that stuff down. uh, can you imagine even I told y'all, like, what was that last week? I was telling y'all about when me and my friends, when we were um teenagers, whatever, we started talking about, what's that clear stuff in, do you get that clear stuff in your panties? We were
Mhm.
having that conversation. We're asking each other, and then to have somebody make that seem as if it's dirty or wrong.
Right.
What is that? I mean, at a certain point, we got to say, hey, look at this. Because one day you ain't going to have that. I mean, I'm just
think
saying.
that's true?
I don't know, but if you keep pressing it down, if you keep denying
yeah.
your own
Yeah.
sexuality, that stuff goes to sleep. It goes dormant.
It goes dormant, but it's always there, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. So how do you know? And if you haven't seen it in a while, right? Then how do you then begin to talk to it and say, hey, sweetheart, like, I see you. I know you're there. I got to give you some attention and give you some love. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me, because somebody said something on here. Okay. So Tony, where am I at? Okay. So Tony, we as African American women have to put ourselves first. I am cute. I am sexy. I watch my cute. But as I walk away, I watch my cute, but as I walk away, men, please, no, men like us plus women, yes, the plus size women. So yes, I mean, you know what? All of that. And you know what? It's interesting because sometimes we get caught up on different things, right? I remember somebody telling me, he was like, I don't want nobody in my bed that I got to search for, be over there patting the bed trying to find out, you know? He was like, I want something that's right there. So hey,
go ahead. What you can
hey, Terrell. I don't know, do I pronounce it Terrell or Terrell or anyway, we are not kings and queens. We are gods and goddesses. King and queens are European words. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that. However, all the verbiage is good here. We are talking about how we see ourselves.
Elevating our thoughts about ourselves from a place of unworthiness, or I mean, even a queen is better than a receptacle or cum dumpster.
I'm just telling you what I've heard. I'm not, Toni Morrison used a doormat. She's like, men walk on you and wipe their feet on you and keep moving, right?
Yeah.
So the analogy, whether we're saying cum dump or a doormat or a receptacle or a vessel or whatever it is, what has been, and what we need to do is to shift that. Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You just got something.
So I needed to pull myself together.
Okay. Breathe.
So the day that we understand the power of this part of ourselves, men and women, and hold that space as sacred, the thing that the oppressor feared the most will be his or her experience. Because that's the fear, that somehow or another, if we as people of color learn who we are and then begin to move in that, because this area that we're talking about, that second chakra, the tribal, torn apart, and then the second part, which is the communion and the procreation and the co-creation, if we get a clear and solid understanding of what that connection is and what it's for, and talking about tearing down heaven and bringing heaven to earth, that vision just came to me, that if my people who are called by my name would seek my face, like being in that space together for that understanding, it just blows my mind.
Right. You know what? People don't even see one another's faces anymore. People hide their faces when they having sex. They don't want somebody to see their face. Right. And one of the things that I always find fascinating about sex, when people come together, sex does have this, sometimes has this ability to break down stuff, right? And so when you're in it, a lot of times you hear people saying, oh God, because they're in the recognition that this is a spiritual experience.
Even
We
if
have
it's for a
lost,
second.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have lost this idea of separateness, and we come together in a union, and that is powerful,
Mhm.
right? That losing the boundaries of knowing where I begin and you end is lost when you get caught up in a great ass orgasm.
But
And
here's another
so
thing. When she's going to go in this, and I'm jumping ahead, but I just want to clarify, because it's not also not just the experience of two bodies coming together, because you can have what she describes as Kundalini experience, which is and also described in the book The Pussy that we both have read. But the experience of bringing your own self, that's the awakeness that you were speaking of. And there's a meditation that I'll share someday that you do that brings an awakening to yourself, where you can reach your own space and then take that energy, not let it dispel out of your body, and then bring it to a place where it creates, it creates. And so I got emotional because I'm thinking, my God, if you could connect with a partner who understands that,
yeah,
or if we as people of color would not take sexual intimacy and that energy for granted, and we became as serious about that as we are about church and our sports and all the other things that we can give such an amazing energy to, a touchdown, whatever, and take that energy and use it for whatever the universe says. Don't even have an expectation for, but let it come for the purpose of creating and fixing and rewriting our narrative. That thought to me is just, it's blowing my mind in this
it
moment
is
right now. I just
powerful.
can hardly hold myself together. Like,
It is powerful,
ah,
right? If we and so sometimes it's always amazing to me how people enter into a moment, because sometimes people come into a sacred moment and know that it's sacred, and other times people enter into that moment and they don't know the gravity of the situation. And so the first thing that you kind of do is you want to pull back, or you want to laugh about it, or you want to do something that covers over it, because we're not even comfortable with that level of connectedness, right?
mhm,
We're not. And so if, say for instance, and that the show that that's on Netflix now, the Underground Railroad, there's a scene in there where the master massa is making these people mate. I mean, like, oh, like, not only are you not gonna tell, you gonna mate with who I tell you to mate with, and for as long as I tell you to do it, and I'm gonna sit here and watch and supervise to make sure that you do. And so it becomes this, at a certain point, was it all about performance and not necessarily connectedness? And is it about just how well we can spread our seed and not recognize that that there is, and this is not just something that just men experience, but women have experienced it too. We have been disengaged from our bodies.
I imagine that they would probably have to look away from each other so that the connection didn't happen.
Yes, because there's something different that happens when you kiss somebody. There's something different that happens when you're looking eye to eye to somebody. There's a totally different stuff that comes into a situation.
Mhm.
Um, so Desmond says intellect before sex for him, but for so many people, it has been it's been libido before all of that. And there's this other thing that happens is that sometimes people can't even, they want to have sex first to know that in order to see if they got chemistry or if they work well together, and then they get into the other part. And it just
And it works
you
differently.
know
I have no judgment about it. I just know that the if I had to pray a prayer concerning this, is that we would do the work so that we could use this as a powerful tool to make change without ever leaving a room. To me, that's the Christ. That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
that's the power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It is amazingly powerful. So she says sexuality connects us to our own bodies
Mhm.
and the physical needs, as well as the potential for exploring our erotic and sensual aspects.
Yes.
So, so my question to all of you is how do you feel about your own body? And so Stephanie mentioned this book earlier. It's called Pussy, Pussy, and it is written by Regina Thomas Hauser. And we both read that book, and it talks about that our pussy has the ability to communicate as an energy in and of itself.
Mhm.
And so if we are unable to connect with it, it is partly in part because we have disconnected from ourselves. And so sometimes we need to back up. And if that word offends you, or if it is not comfortable in your mouth, it could be because it's not comfortable on your body.
Mhm.
And so sometimes we need to really back up and really start to appreciate and love ourselves. There was a movie that I watched, What the Bleep Do We Know?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And in that movie, there was a ceremony that the woman that was deaf went through, where she began to really look at her body. As a matter of fact, what's the woman's name who played in A Fish Called Wanda?
I don't know actors like that.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking you.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't even remember the movie.
Um,
I remember the title, but I don't remember the movie.
anyway, somebody knows who I'm talking about. Um,
Please share.
but but it is this, she has done some work around saying, you know what, like you get to see all of us, even
Hmm.
what's that other girl's name, anyway, people have done this thing, like you get to see these airbrushed images of what people look like, and we have this aspiration of wanting to have a body like a Beyonce, or having these wonderful bodies like what we see in the porno things. We disengage. We see people going down to places. I just saw somebody on the plane coming back from Miami who went down to buy herself a new booty, right? We get new parts and all of this other stuff, thinking that maybe if I have a different self, I'll be able to love ourselves. Well, why not just love you where you are? So
Well,
if you
because
got
it's not a just. It's not a just. That's why it's happening, because it's not a just. There is so much work that goes into reprogramming your information, and yeah, there's just a lot of work that goes into reprogramming the information that's been told to you, especially there's just a lot of work, and that's why people are doing these things that they're doing, because if it was as simple as flipping on the switch, oh my God, our
I'm
society
sorry,
would
I'm not
be.
trying to make it seem like it's simple. That's not what I'm saying. It's not simple. Just do it. I mean, it becomes if that's the issue, like if you're not comfortable with yourself, what I'm saying is back up and do that work. It's not simple. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's simple. Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is who I was thinking about in The Fish Called Wanda. Thank you, Sarika. Good morning. I watch homemade amateur porn. It has regular bodies in it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Where do you find that?
I know. I'm like,
Maybe it's a certain subscription you got.
I need to put that on the big screen. It's coming though, y'all. I believe it. It's coming. It's coming. We just see all this, people making all of these expensive augmentations.
Yeah.
There is a tribe of people who just want to keep it real and just want to be. I just want to be who I am, whatever that is, and be about the business of determining that. Who am I?
Right. And what stuff have I done in order to survive? Right?
Yeah.
What's the stuff that I have done in order to cope? Right?
Your analogy of the brick wall, like put up the walls. What bricks have I put around me? Or even the zipper thing where I've I've created something to hide something to me.
Right. So is partly, like in the movie that I mentioned, What the Bleep Do We Know? It was like this woman looking at her body, and there's this scene where she's drawing little hearts on her body, where she's looking at herself and beginning to love all of her severed parts, that remembering that who you are is perfect, who you are. And in spite of somebody else's judgments, it's not about other people, right? Is partly, well, for the most part, is you falling in love with you.
Yes.
And if you are repulsed by yourself, and this is not, and don't get me wrong, because sometimes what we think is that we look at ourselves through other people's eyes, and we keep acting as if our only value is the value that others see in us or place on us. But this is the work that you got to do on the inside, right? And so if that means that we got to back up and begin to look at ourselves different, then begin that process.
Work.
Until it no longer has that sting of, is that me? Right? Until you no longer feel that, until you start to feel like, ooh, this is me. Ooh, this is me, right? When you get there, then what happens is that energy, remember we were talking about power versus energy before, not necessarily in a but the energy of you loving you begins to surround you. And then that sexiness, because you are now looking at yourself and saying, ooh, this is juicy,
right?
Good, right? So if you want some,
right,
you're gonna want some, right? Give yourself some pleasure. Recognize that pleasure resides in you.
It is in you, right?
Yes, that ability to have that. When we talk about a power, I mean, right here and right now, you can like tap into, whether you man or woman, you can tap into your genital areas. You can say, hello, good morning. And it'd be like, hey, Right? Hey, thanks for acknowledging me today.
Exactly.
Thanks for seeing me today. Ooh, and get fired up for you.
Mhm.
Create some of that little creamy stuff just because you acknowledge it. And it has been dormant and sleep and
Lied
neglected.
to.
Yes, lied to, all of that, neglected, whatever, all of that.
Mhm.
So,
So my deck, what is my charge this morning? Wake up.
yeah, speak and say it. And, sometimes,
Oh.
you know, I remember being in a meditation when I went to Vipassana, and we had to do body scans. That's part of their meditational practice. You scan your body. You sit in meditation and you go from your head and you scan down, and then you scan back up, and you're looking for any type of sensations or whatever to bring those to your attention, because what they say is that we attach pain bodies. So all of the bricks that I'm talking about or describing become these pain bodies that we experience. And so, they were talking about scanning your body, and it says, pay attention to what you scan, and then pay attention to what you don't scan. Because what you skip over is just as important as what you pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got the idea that your ass is oh, I'm not going to deal with the smelly ass, then that's a big part of you. If you got the idea that you're not going to deal with your balls, that's a big part of you, right? That we should recognize every piece of us as being something sacred,
Mm-hmm.
life-giving,
Mm-hmm.
the worthy and deserving of your attention and of your love.
The love and appreciation.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you for working so wonderfully for me. Desmond gonna say, "Oh my God, OMG!" Right? But that's what it takes.
Yeah.
This is, whether we're calling ourselves kings and queens or gods and goddesses, whatever it is that we are calling ourselves, we have got to be able to contact our full selves, not
Yes.
just parts of us. It's not
Yes.
just intellectual, right? That's one of the things that we talk about, this triune being that we are: mind, body, and spirit. And if we are disengaged from any of that, then we're not being our whole full selves. Um, Wait a minute. So Erica says, I am going to have to skip this part of the book, the show, until we get something else. Until you get to something else, this causes me depression.
I get that.
Okay. But you know what? Here, Erica, I will say to you that all of us have had moments in our lives when we don't have that person that we desire to share in that experience, that self-discovery with us. But part of that is the problem that we have. Because as long as you are thinking about and focusing in on what you don't have, you miss out on what you do. And so it becomes a part of the process of loving you where you are. And if we go to sleep on this, if we
Look
just,
away.
yes, if we look away, then we don't solve the issue that is the issue.
And we learn actually when we don't look away, to everybody. When you decide not to look away and you sit in the meditation 5 more minutes, you discover something else that actually has nothing to do with what you're sitting for. I remember going to a support group for one thing and ended up finding out that my deepest hurt was something totally different. I went there to get some recovery for one thing and found out that the thing that I went there for had nothing. It was probably a symptom of the thing that I wasn't willing to face. And
Right,
so,
right,
you know, even if you can't do anything in the push and just have to sit in the push, just sit in it. Like, I'm just gonna lay here, like being Vasana, just lay here. I can't do these moves. This is too much, but I'm gonna stay in the space because it's the energy that creates, let the energy do what it do.
right, right, right.
Trust
And
the
so,
energy.
and I tell you that part of what I hear is that, you know, our fear causes us to look away. Our
Yeah,
fear
it
causes us
does.
to
It
skip
does.
out. But it is going through that, through the fire, as Shaka Khan would say, right? It's part of
Mhm.
us going through that that causes us to reawaken, to you know, to give new life to it, to experience something different. So I would challenge you not to. I would say that this is one of the most important parts that we go through, because and one of the things that she says is that as we experience this, is, you know, this kundalini energy, it starts out on this one level. It starts out just in our in our pussy, or in our, you know, in our in your penis, or whatever it is that whatever name you have given it, whatever it starts out in that. But then it starts to, as it goes
Oh,
up, it opens up and it
yes.
ignites all of our being.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're stuck in that area, if you don't have movement in that area, then that becomes the place where you're stuck and you can't get to the rest of them, or it doesn't enliven or to wake up in the way that you would want
True.
to. So Gretchen says, I'm just now starting to open up and allow myself to find the yin to my yang. And I will say to you, and that's right on, Gretchen, because once you start activating that energy, it's almost like, you know, it's so funny. I'm gonna tell y'all, because I have been places after I done had some good sex, right? If I had a night where I just had some great sex, it's like the next day people actually act like they can smell it on me. I take a shower and everything, but all of a sudden they be like, you know, like, how you doing?
Yeah.
So when and so one of the things that I used to tell folks is that if you are not having sex, masturbate. Because when you have sexual energy that is about you, that is on you, when you are existing in that loving of self, that stuff, people can, pheromones come out in your body, you walk differently, even if it is just with you.
Mhm.
I mean, it's amazing that, and I know people don't talk about this, right? I don't really care about what other people do, right? You are here with Sandra and Stephanie now, right? And I know that it's gonna be some stuff that I might say to you that you're gonna be like, oh my God.
Well, if
I
it's for you, take it. If not,
Yeah, right, right.
share it with a
But
friend.
but I would challenge you, right? I don't know who you are. I don't know your stuff, you know, unless of course you share it here. And if you share it here, I'm assuming that you're sharing it with with all of us. I don't know all of that stuff, but I do know that 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 you are a whole self, right? Not just from the waistline up, right? You are a whole being, and part of what we are doing is, thank you, Desmond. Desmond is putting it in the proper thing. He's saying that endorphins are released. Well, if people can smell my endorphins, they can sense my endorphins, darn it. Whatever you want to
It's
say, however
energy.
you want to
It's
call it.
energy. It's all energy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's energy.
however you want to call it, they can feel it in the air, like I'm some, right? They, It's a difference. And anybody who, I mean, we can see other people, we can pick up stuff on other people, and we may not be able to articulate it and say, oh, you just got you some, right? We don't know why it is that we feel that level of attraction or that level of engagement, but we do.
We do. And
And
it's
so,
real.
yeah. And so don't be walking around like a piece of cardboard. Get some of that stuff stirred up in you, right? Start talking to it, and and saying, hey dude, you my dude, I'm gonna take care of you, right? Whatever that may mean. Not looking for something, but just sometimes just connecting with your body, with yourself, just
That's like the
and
number one start, just getting clear about what your opinion is about that part of who you are.
and touch
The
yourself.
physical aspect of it, the activities of it, getting clear about what do I think about that? What do I feel about that? And then honoring what you think and feel about it. Just
Right.
honor that, and don't. My struggle was being pushed into society. Oh, you're a good girl. You need to be a bad girl. You need, no, I had to honor this is me, and she's amazing.
Yes.
Both of us, me and her, we're
Yes.
amazing.
All of us, all of you.
you
Yes,
know, so
yes,
yeah,
yes.
just
Not
getting
just
just
pieces of you. Yes,
right.
all
Yeah,
of you.
yeah.
And so if we could just hold that, that would just be beautiful. So you guys, I we didn't even we so
No.
we didn't get deep into this yet. We got more tomorrow. Because I know I mentioned that word, erotic and sensual aspects. We hadn't even gotten into that because we still at the
I
basics.
know that's like I'm saying. I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead, but this
Yeah,
is
we still at the basics. So for those of you,
don't leave,
yeah, Erica, stay with us, right? I know that all of us are
Erica.
dealing with different stuff, right? Different stuff. But this, whether wherever you are on the spectrum of your stuff, I would say that first off, you're not here by accident, right? We think, some of y'all will think, oh, I just stumbled across this. No, you didn't just stumble across it, right? There was a energy that went out that says, I need
Yes.
something, right? And then you find something, and then the challenge is not to look away. The challenge is to stay with this and to see what it has for you, right? Whatever that may mean. Some folks like Gretchen may need to go and buy the book and have the book. These things we have been working on since Easter, and we have them posted on my timeline. Some of them are on Stephanie's timeline too. They are posted. You can go back and you can revisit them and catch up if you want to catch up, but don't look away. If you are here, and don't get me wrong, right? Because in this thing, she started talking about where I had to rub, and I'm gonna say this, and then I got to get off here because I got to go pick up my nephew. But where I had to rub was as she started talking about how hot flashes was an indication that like I hadn't had enough. I don't know if she was saying that I hadn't had enough sex, or if I was not, but my sex life. Had I had a better sex life, I would
Oh, I
have
forgot about it. Yeah, yeah.
a
Mm-hmm.
different experience with my menopausal symptoms. And for me, I don't. So first off, I'm like, okay, maybe I don't believe I've had enough sex. I don't need any help, y'all. Don't be sending me no private messages volunteering. I do the picking, I do the choosing. I'm good with that, right? But I don't believe that I have had enough life affirming sex. And so I'm
That's
working through
good.
my issues just like everybody else is working through their issues. And none of us, one of us here are perfect.
Mm-mm.
And so we just invite you on this journey. And whatever it is, okay, so and I'm gonna read this and then I'm gonna let y'all go, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Jeremiah says, always remember, sin isn't a gender. All our conversations are circular concerning sin. There's no place like home. Elohim created us, and what you see is what you get. Your DNA can't change. You aren't the creator. Understanding comes from one place only, God. I will challenge you all to keep major secrets between you and your Father. He will bless you open. So wait a minute. So first off, I'm not asking for your secrets, right?
no.
That's not what I'm asking for. And second off, I think that this idea of secret keeping,
You're as healthy as your secrets.
Yes. You're as, say that again.
You are as healthy as your secret, or you are as sick as your secrets.
Right. And so this idea of keeping secrets has worked to our detriment.
Yes.
My experiences that I have had are not for me and for me alone. They are for me to bless the world, right? I get my communication directly from God, right? Not trying to sit there and trying to make somebody else my emissary, trying to make somebody else the way that I connect with God. I got a direct connection. I don't need somebody else, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, to tell me, right? I know, right? I'm there. So this is about taking the
Ownership.
dirt and the filth out of our minds when it comes down to dealing with ourselves, our bodies, our sexuality. We are freeing ourselves from all the bullshit we've been given over the years.
Right. That's right.
So I would challenge
the Bible. What is that? God said to Adam, who told you you were naked?
Right.
Who told you that was a problem?
Right. Exactly.
Who told you
You
that?
gotta love all of you. And so while I appreciate your sharing and I appreciate you being here, if you saying keep your secrets to yourself, I'm telling you, keep your judgments to yourself, right?
Yeah.
This is the work that needs to happen, and I got that from on high. Sorry, kid. All right, y'all, we out of here.
Thank you. Thank everybody for showing up.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
I'm so glad she said she felt that. All right, so I love y'all. We'll see you here tomorrow, same time, same place. All right. Blessing. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
I love this stuff.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.